Mars anomalies, an ancient civilization unearthed on Mars. Oh, yeah, check this out. That's what I'm talking about. So, this is actually from a satellite that orbits Mars. It's called the HiRISE Satellite Project. You can go to Arizona University, you can check out their images. In my opinion, the satellite imagery that's been shared with the world through the HiRISE program is some of the best footage you're going to find on Mars. And if you go back to the 1976 Viking orbiter footage that was disclosed to the world, created a huge conspiracy about the face of Mars, whether it's actually a face or pareidolia. Well, we're going to talk about that too. I've got declassified files to share with you that show evidence of a highly advanced civilization on Mars about 1 million years ago with very tall people. I've got scriptures to share with you from the book of Enoch that, in my theory, when they're talking about the Watchers, they're actually talking about Martians or beings that came to Earth from Mars. And they're missing out on a lot of information. So just let me show you the information. Let me show you the data, the photographs, the declassified files. You make up your own decision. This is all theory here, but it's a lot of fun. So buckle up, Buttercup. Let's go. And if you haven't checked out Noble Gold Investments yet, what the heck are you waiting for? Did you know that if you convert your 401 or IRA into precious metals through Noble Gold Investments, find out how to qualify, you will be gifted 10 ounces of solid silver to add to your collection, to add to your metal bank. Now, there's obviously never any guarantees. So what a lot of people do is look at what the money funders, the big banks are doing. And gold, silver, precious metals has been very high up in the purchase list of big banks for several years. There's been a multitude of records, near records broken in the amount of gold and silver that banks are actually purchasing. And if you look at the graphs and the charts and all of the instability right now, a lot of people are looking for ways to hedge against inflation. They're looking for opportunities not only to protect their retirement, but also move forward with it. Check out Noble Gold Investments, 1-877-646-5347, A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, countless 5-star reviews. I've purchased gold and silver through Noble Gold Investments and platinum. Give them a call. You'll be glad you did. And also check out their website, noblegoldinvestments.com. They might even have some books left that Colin Plume just wrote. He's the CEO of Noble Gold Investments. He's also an author. He wrote a book called Silver is the New Oil. And it's an awesome read. So I think they're giving out those when you convert as well. So that'll be nice to read that. But let's get into this. Now, I don't know if you watched the show yesterday, but I was bringing up yesterday that 10 years ago, New Jersey was selected as a testing site or a potential testing site for FAA drone missions that include everything from medical to security, law enforcement, a multitude of different opportunities in the drone industry. 10 years ago, New Jersey was selected. So I wonder if that might have something. And FAA was involved with this. So I'm just thinking, 10 years ago. But nobody knows what's going on now. But they do know, but they don't know. Anyway, so just something I wanted to throw out there for you. But let's go to this article real quick and let's take a look at these photos. And the photo we're seeing here is actually from the HiRISE satellite. And do your own research, do yourself a favor and check this out on the HiRISE website. Now I'm going to show you on the website, but just to clarify, just to confirm, look at this. Now I've also gone to a website called MetaBunk where people are attempting to debunk this, or they're offering maybe it's, when I say debunk, I'm just referring to, as of now, it certainly looks like a structure or a foundation, nanu, of a structure, right? Now, I've heard this saying, nature doesn't work in straight lines, but it does. You can find straight lines in nature quite often. Look at a quartz crystal as an example. This right here, though, is definitely out of place. It's certainly an anomaly. And we're going to look at some other anomalies in a minute. We're going to look at a place called Sedonia, the best. It's like a 6,000. It's a huge file. It's a huge file that shows the face, the city, and it shows the environment around the face and the city. And there's what looks like a wall. There's a whole bunch of stuff there. But this is hot off the press again, because this was actually released in 2016. This is the third time that it's made the rounds here. So just check the file out, E1000462. Remember back in 2020, this adds to the mystery a little bit. This is why we're going back to Mars. This is why we're going to recolonize Mars and make it a habitable environment again. There is so much water on Mars. There's actually more water on Mars, allegedly, according to the research, than there is on Earth. And Mars is a lot smaller than Earth. We're looking at potentially, we've got water, we've got high technology. Think of all the high technology that is going to be unearthed out there. The military is going to have a heyday, like DARPA, reverse engineering projects. It's going to be one thing after another, after another, after another, because there's a 1,000,000-year-old city there, at least. Now, I'm going to show you the declassified file right here. This is the declassified file from the CIA.gov. Somebody made a comment the other day, well, man, Rex, how come you believe that? If you don't, what if other stuff they're saying isn't true, but you believe that? First of all, it's just a piece of information. And belief is great, but we're looking for data. We're looking for as much information as possible here. And just so you know, this file itself there was a remote viewing project that took place. And if you know anything about legit remote viewing isn't imagining something in your mind and saying, oh, this I remote viewed. Now, that's a loose definition, because military protocols and certain protocols for remote viewing, like this as an example, the viewer, the person that's doing the remote viewing, has no idea what they're remote viewing. They're given an envelope that's sealed. They're given a sealed envelope that might or might not have something that pertains to the target that they are remote viewing. Now, this was a target that was done on Mars. It's called Mars Exploration, May 22nd, 1984. 6 years later, 6 or 7 years later, the film Total Recall comes out with Arnold, where Arnold is he has his memory blocked and changed, so he doesn't realize he's a secret agent that's been to Mars. But there is space travel available in the future, as well as memory programs where they'll upload stuff into your mind where you feel like that just happened. You have memories of that actually taking place without going there. So you save all sorts of money. And do you remember the scene in that film where Arnold is like, he doesn't realize he's a secret agent yet, and he goes to this location where they download memories into your brain, and he's talking to the sales guy, and the sales guy is like the ultimate timeshare salesman. He's like, oh yeah, you're gonna love it, man. This is awesome. Where do you want to go? Do you want to go to Venus? Do you want to go to Mercury? And Arnold's like, no, I want to go to Mars. He's like, you want to go to Mars? Why do you want to go to Mars? He's like, because that's where I want to go. He's like, okay. So imagine yourself going to Mars, and you go to Mars and you're climbing mountains that are higher than Mount Everest. And so let me ask you this. What do you want to be when you go to Mars? Imagine, oh, I got it, Arnold. This is what you want to do when you go to Mars. You want to be a secret agent. You want to be a secret agent. You want to have the hot agent girlfriend. You want to have, like all the secret agent toys and you want to be the secret. And Arnold's like, yeah. He's like, okay, well, that's only like 400 more credits. And he's like, okay, I'll take that one. So during his memory wipe or during his memory implants, he goes crazy. He breaks out, he goes crazy. And the reason is because when they're putting these memory implants into him, they realize that he's actually a secret agent that had his memory wiped. So, or compartmentalized. And then he reactivates, they put him back to sleep. He wakes back up in the cab, and then he's like, what the hell just happened? And he starts to realize that he's a secret agent. So stay with me on this. The reason I'm mentioning this is because when he goes back to Mars, spoiler alert if you haven't seen this 35-year-old film, I'll give you a moment. Is that enough? Okay, there's a million-year-old pyramid on Mars. There's a million-year-old pyramid on Mars that has the ability to change the atmosphere to make it habitable, similar to Earth's atmosphere. And he realizes that at the end of the film. This film comes out 6 or 7 years after this remote viewing session that was researched by the CIA and is now a declassified file. Do I have any water? I need some water. It's high elevation out here. It's crazy. Oh, yes. Okay. So, Mars, exploration, May 22nd, 1984. This is how the remote viewing operation takes place. There's a sealed envelope, In the envelope was a 3x5 card with the following information: the planet Mars, time of interest approximately, and that's 1 million years BC. Then, selected geographic coordinates provided by the parties requesting the information were verbally given to the subject during the interview. Now, the first location, so the only thing that the remote viewer is given is the coordinates. Doesn't know if he's, he probably thinks it's Earth, but he's not. The remote viewer isn't supposed to speculate. The remote viewer is just supposed to remote view the target, and the target, they do not know what the target is. So they give the remote viewer the target, and if you look at the location here, it's 40.89 degrees north, 9.55 degrees west. If you put that into Google Maps or just a quick search, put that in and then put Mars next to it, guess what pulls up? Sedonia, the region of Sedonia, not Sedona, Arizona, Sedonia, Mars. Sedonia, Mars is where the face of Mars is located, as well as what looks like a complex city system, structures, etc. This is the highest resolution image I could find of the Sedonia region, where a multitude of images were compiled together to give you this mosaic. And as you can see, there's a lot of activity here, lots of activity. Well, let's zoom in to the region with the face. Boom, right here, as you can see. Clearly, it jumps out as what looks like a face. It even has the headdress. Now, when I saw this the first time, many, many years ago, I thought, wow, that reminds me of something that you would see in ancient Egypt with the pharaohs and certain hieroglyphics that depict these high stature beings with headdresses. I was like, that looks a lot like that. Very, very similar. And then if you look just to the southeast, I think this would be the southeast, or if you look to the left, from your point of view, you can see what appears to be either mountains or pyramids or ancient structures. Now, what makes these stand out, especially the 5-sided pyramid, is this guy right here that has 5 different sides to it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5-sided pyramid. Is that the 5-sided pyramid? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think so. Okay. Now we could look at some more high resolution here later when we're not doing a live stream, but the resolution is a bit limited here. Now, this location is not far at all from the face. This is the region of Sedonia. And if you zoom out even further, zoom back out here, you can see there's a lot of activity in the region of Sedonia. So this is the first location that is remote viewed. The person that does the remote viewing remote views the region of Sedonia. So just keep that in mind. Here we go. Wanted to add a little bit more to the interesting parallels of ancient Egypt and Sedonia. The name Cairo, which literally translates to place or camp of Mars, or the conqueror, is a reference to the planet Mars. The name is also connected to Mars, the Roman god of war. The official name of Cairo is Al-Qaira, which is Arabic for place or camp of Mars. The Egyptian name for Cairo is said to mean place of combat. The city's full name, Al-Qaira, Al-Mu'izziya, means the vanquisher of Al-Mu'iz. The name may also be a reference to the planet Mars, which was rising when the city was founded. In Arabic, Mars is known as an Naj al-Qahar. I'm sorry if I'm getting these names wrong, which means the conquering star. Now, place of war. Why is it that Mars is oftentimes associated with war? Many other things as well, like vigor and strength. But war is also often associated. And in this podcast, in this reference, let's think about that for a minute, because on the front of Mars, if you have a telescope, check out Mars, and almost a third of the face of Mars, or almost a third, you're looking at Mars, and almost a third of it is this enormous canyon that, if you've ever been to the Grand Canyon, you know how grand the Grand Canyon really is. It's amazing, it's majestic, it's magical, it's huge. Well, the canyon on Mars is much, much larger than the Grand Canyon. It's deeper, it's wide. I mean, it's the biggest canyon in the solar system that we know of. So what created this massive canyon? It's called the Valley Marineris on Mars. What created that? And the current theories are, one of the mainstream theories is volcanic activity. It looks nothing like a volcano. It absolutely looks nothing at all like a volcano. It looks like electrical discharge. It looks like a very powerful, high voltage, think of a plasma cannon the size of the moon. Oh, wait, like the Death Star. Carving out, look up the Lichtenberg effect. If you just get a minute, type in Lichtenberg effect. Look up the Lichtenberg effect. And then compare that to the Grand Canyon and Valley Marineris on Mars. If you look at the canyon on Mars, Valley Marineris, it looks like it was literally carved out by a giant thunderbolt. How many times in ancient Sumer that has been passed on to other cultures? You could go even before that, I think the Errata civilization. Let's take it before the Younger Dryas event. Actually, let's take it right at around the time of the Younger Dryas event and after the Younger Dryas event. What are the gods often holding? When I'm referring to gods, I'm not referring to the creator of the universe. I'm referring to these deities in history and scripture and mythology that have they're holding a thunderbolt. The Anunnaki oftentimes are depicted as holding a thunderbolt. The thunderbolt of the gods, right? Whether or not the thunderbolt of the gods was a technology or a universal or natural phenomena here in the solar system is yet to be determined. Maybe there was both. Maybe at a time we were attempting to mimic the most powerful planetary discharges that have ever been seen by creating a technology that could be just as powerful. I don't know. That's for a whole other podcast. But clearly, there is reference of these thunderbolts of the gods, high technology, the Younger Dryas event that's verified around the world. What if it was more than just our planet, though? This Younger Dryas event and Mars. Now, if we do the remote viewing here, and if we think of the timeline of 1 million years ago, because that's when they remote viewed this object on Mars, this structure, this city on Mars, they're going 1 million years back. But they changed the timeline during this remote viewing session. And if you stick with me, I'll go back to it in a minute and we'll read through that whole remote viewing session, because the remote viewer actually sees structures. They're given a multitude of coordinates, different locations, and I could use your help. So if you're watching this and if you could help me out with this, I'd really appreciate it. Maybe we could do a podcast together. I need somebody to take the coordinates, all of the different coordinates, because the only location that I could find was the coordinates with Sedonia. I'm not 100, I don't know exactly how to put the coordinates into a Google Maps Mars or some type of map to where I could put the coordinates in from A to B and see it exactly. So if you could help me out with that, that'd be much appreciated. You could leave info in the comment section. You can send me an email, leakproject@gmail.com. But I'll give you these coordinates here in a minute. So if you could just write them all down, I've got them all written down. I'll even put them in the description box. But I was able to verify the Sedonia location because if you type in those coordinates, it literally takes you to Sedonia and it shows the Cydonia region. So I thought that was really cool when I went to the coordinates, verified Cydonia. Viking does a flyby there in 1976. Clearly there's a reason NASA and the military and the CIA wants to know what's going on in that area of Cydonia. Clearly there's more than just a bunch of space rocks that look like faces created from pareidolia. I mean, it's kind of, we're kind of beyond that, aren't we? So, you know, it would be really cool. So obviously Elon Musk has a passion to get back to Mars. I've always wanted to go back to Mars. I don't know why. I've got this strong connection with Mars. Maybe a past life. I don't know. Maybe I just want to go hang out with Arnold out there and climb that giant pyramid. But that area specifically, and ancient Egypt, and then we're also going to talk about these granite boxes, these black granite boxes that are about 70 to 100 tons, built with precision underneath a complex network of tunnels and halls. The structure that's underground in Egypt, there's these 24 black granite boxes. The Serapeum. Right here. Yeah, the Serapeum. There are 24 of these boxes underneath Mars. The Serapeum of Saqqara. They're about 70 to 100 tons. They are built with precision. There's a couple of them that later petroglyphs, or not petroglyphs, hieroglyphs were carved into them. Thousands of years, most likely, after these things were put there. Now, most likely, my theory is these boxes were put there, these granite vaults were put there before this network of halls were actually built around them. And the reason is it would be impossible with the technology that we're told was available then to put these 70 to 100 ton granite boxes in these locations. So I've got two theories about these boxes. My first theory is they were transporting beings to these locations through these granite sarcophaguses. And the reason they're 70 to 100 tons of black granite is because that's how they were able to travel from wherever they came from. Now, I've got two theories about where they came from, these boxes in particular. One of them is Mars. But another theory I'll share with you later. And it's from another star. Or another star system. And because of that amount of distance, the amount of radiation, etc., in order to protect those inside of these 24 granite boxes, they had to be built this way. Now, after the fact, there's talk of bowls being buried in these boxes for immortality. Now, that could have been done in the age of Taurus to offer homage to the age of the bull, the age of giant things and megaliths and structures, which was several thousand years ago. That could be, I'm 99.9% that wasn't the original purpose. I mean, think about that. 70 to 100 ton black granite. Where did they get the black granite, first of all? Because there's a lot of there's a lot of talk that archaeologists and geologists don't even know where they got this specific type of granite. Like, where did they quarry them? Where did they get them? Then they put them there and then they buried bowls in them. Do you know what I'm thinking of when I think of they buried bowls in those sarcophagus? Anyway, I'm not going to say it. Look at that. So anyway, that's the current theory. Now let's go back to the object. Let's look at the object again that is making its rounds. And that is this square image that you see right here. It looks like a base or a foundation of a structure. So then if you want to go directly to the high-rise imagery, you have to go to viewer.mars.asu. That's Arizona State University.edu. What does EDU stand for? Education. And you click on this E1. I'm sorry. That was really... Anyway, I shouldn't have done that. E1000462 is the file number. You can see the location here to the right as well. It's in a crater. So this is within a crater, which would make sense. So you've got this massive crater. It's built inside of this massive crater. You have to scroll up to the top of it. Here it is. It's right here. Boom. Look at that. Natural? Swamp gas? I mean, I could definitely see how swamp gas could be used as a reasoning to why you would have this almost perfect square foundation. Now, then if you want to go to, let's go to, where are we going to go here? We're going to go insane after looking at this for a long period of time. If you go to Brian's post here, Brian R., here are the coordinates. You've got the latitude and the longitude, the phase angle. There's all the data right there. The spacecraft altitude, it looks like it was at, what would that be, 320? So you're talking about 270 miles, 407 kilometers. So it's 407 kilometers away. And then the red outline is just showing you basically the image itself. I've got some better images that I want to share with you. Okay, here we go. So this is Metabunk. If you go to Metabunk, this article is from ARB under UFOs and aliens. And the claim is there is a feature on Mars that resembles an ancient square structure. The person writes, I woke up this morning to find a text message from a friend in a group thread with a link to the Reddit post. He says that the thread was sent to him, was suggested to him. In any case, the thread is questioned. The thread in question is titled NASA Picture That Reveals Possible Archaeological Site on Mars. Straight lines rarely occur in nature. Here's the image E1000462. And it looks like a foundation. Very much so. To me, it looks like a foundation of an ancient structure. Here's another one. The first is the original. The second helpfully highlights what may be the square foundation of an ancient artificial structure on Mars. I mean, that's pretty convincing. I'm not 100% convinced, but I'm like, okay, yeah, that's pretty good. So you can go title in the image right here if you want to do your own search like I shared with you. Here's Google Mars, another satellite image view with some more computer renditions. Here's another one where you can see that it's actually up on a hill. It looks like within this massive crater, it's up on a hill, the foundation. I like this one right here. Check this out. So To me, I thought, okay, yeah, it looks like it's actually, so you've got this massive crater. And then within this massive crater, you have a multitude of hills, a multitude of landscapes. And one of these hills or mesas, one of these mesas, you would actually build this structure on this mesa within this ginormous crater. So I thought that was a pretty good secondary view of this location. Here are some other anomalies that have been picked up. And there's a multitude of Mars anomalies. I mean, I used to spend hours researching Mars anomalies like 15, 20 years ago. Loved it. It was like National Geographic. I was in it. I was searching. I was looking. I found some really bizarre stuff. And also on the moon, some really bizarre stuff. But this right here is just a set of different images that's making its rounds. Like this one looks like the dollar bill with the pyramid and the eye above it. But I'm not convinced on any of these 100% either. They're pretty compelling. Here's the 5-sided pyramid right here. It's called, I think, the D&M pyramid out there by Sedonia. And then this one right here is pretty cool. We've just been looking at that. So good stuff. This is the Cydonia region again. This is another really good website you want to check out, MarsAnomalyResearch.com. Thousands of images from high rise that I think this gentleman's called the Skipper, where he gets in there and really pulls the images out and some of these anomalies. Like my favorite, when I used to get on here years ago, were the what looks like giant plant species or some type of trees on Mars. I don't know if it is or it isn't, but all the data, he'll put in all the information here for you. Let's go back to the transcript. Now, this is the declassified file. See audio and video coming in okay, everybody? So this is the remote viewing session done. And first location they remote view is Sedonia. Well, let me tell you what the remote viewer sees in Sedonia. Also, I wanted to add to the validity of this document. I have a friend that is like a human lie detector. He actually helped break the story on Monica Lewinsky and President Clinton at the time. Like the story was already broke, but he was asked to go on the Howard Stern show and basically describe if when Clinton came out and said, "I did not have sexual relations with that woman." Well, he looked at he watched the video over and over and over again. And basically he's like, oh, he was perfect on everything except the hand that he was using was like when he was pointing at the, I did not, he was using the opposite hand that he normally, I can't remember if he's left-handed or right-handed, but he was using the opposite hand of that, which basically outed him as, not, yeah. Anyway, so, so just so you know, the reason I brought him up is because he read the document and watched the video, and he's like, yeah, when you read through this, he could tell it was a remote viewing thing. It wasn't somebody making something up or glorifying some story about Mars. Like to him, he read this and he's like, oh yeah, this is actually a legit document. So for those of you out there that are like, well, Rex, if it's from the CIA, why do you believe it, man? It's not from the CIA. This is a document that was researched by the CIA and then later declassified. And it's fascinating. And, oh, yeah, you know how I brought up Elon earlier? And I said, well, like Elon really wants to get back to Mars. That's one of his passions. If we disclose there was an ancient civilization on Mars, think of the amount of people that'll jump on board and want to go to Mars and be like a part of the next, especially right now with all the stuff that's going on around the world. I mean, it could really move the needle in the right direction to get out there versus just continuing to say stuff like, well, maybe, yeah, well, maybe, nah, there's just too much. You need some confirmation. You need to validate to people that there was a high civilization out there, and we go back out there and we turn some of this stuff back on and we reverse engineer some of this technology. Can you imagine the amount of underground facilities out there right now and underground civilizations and networks that are probably functioning? When Haim Ashed came out in 2020, Haim Ashed comes out and says, and Haim Ashed, if anybody's going to know about Martians or beings from other planets and their involvement with the US or the world or whatever, I mean, it's going to be Haim Ashed. And he comes out in 2020 in an interview with an Israeli national newspaper and says the United States government has been in contact with ETs for years and has signed secret agreements with a galactic federation in order to perform experiments on Earth, and that there is a joint base underground on Mars where the collaboration with American astronauts. He also stated that US President Donald Trump was aware of this and was on the verge of informing everyone of their existence, but was stopped by the Galactic Federation, who wished to prevent mass hysteria. So, you can believe it, you cannot believe it, but it's more information to add to the very real possibility that we're working with them out there right now. And you can actually research the mythology, and I've got some mythology I'll share with you here possibly in a minute from the Book of Enoch, which I think they're referencing people from Mars, the Watchers, actually. All right. So this is the Mars exploration, remote viewing. The first place they go to is Sedonia. Here's the coordinates. And this is what the remote viewer sees. I want to say, it looks like I don't know, it sort of looks, I kind of got an oblique view of a pyramid or pyramid form. It's very high. It's kind of sitting in a large depressed area. That is the exact description of the pyramid in Cydonia on Mars. And that region is the exact location. He is looking at a pyramid on Mars that is huge. And so then the interviewer, or we'll just call it the interviewer, says, all right. The remote viewer says it's yellowish, ochre colored. It's yellowish, ochre colored. Exactly. Then interviewer says, all right, move in time to the time indicated in the envelope I provided you and describe what's happening. I'm tracking severe clouds, more like dust storm. It's geological problem. Seems to be like just a minute. I've got to iron this out. It's really weird. Just report your raw perceptions at this time. You're still early in the session. I'm looking at after effect of a major geological problem. Okay, go back to the time before the geological problem. Totally different. It's before there's no I don't know. Oh hell, it's like mountains of dirt appear and then disappear. When you go before, see large flat surfaces, very smooth, angles, walls. They're really large though. I mean, they're megalithic. All right. At this period in time, now before the geological activity, look around in and around this area and see if you can find any activity. I'm seeing it's like a perception of a shadow of people, very tall, thin, It's only a shadow. It's as if they were there and then they're not there anymore. Go back to a period of time where they are there. It's like I get a lot of static on a line and everything. It's breaking up all the time, very fragmentary pieces. Just report the raw data. Don't try to put things together. Just report the raw data. I just keep seeing very large people. They appear thin and tall, but they're very large, wearing some kind of strange clothes. All right. Now, holding in this time period, I want to move from your physical location in space to another physical location. But in this time period, move now to 46.45 north, 353.22 east. Move in this time to 46.45 north, 353.22 east. Now, I want to take a moment of pause here. They're very large, thin, weird clothing. What else is depicted as very large in stature, in mythology, and in scripture, and on some of the hieroglyphics in ancient Egypt, with what you might refer to as weird clothing, but to them it's not. It's very functional. Everything that they wear, their headdress, everything is functional, yet we don't understand it, so we perceive it as weird. Fascinating. Fascinating. They see people, they saw a cataclysm, they saw an event that took place that completely obliterated, or I shouldn't say completely obliterated, but it caused major geological disturbances. So they go back, they travel back in time, they see the people, they see the beings. This is incredible. And guess what? If you stick with me, when we get to the end, it describes what caused the geological cataclysm. That's interesting. Kind of, now that I think about it, it makes me think of Velikovsky, where he talked about Venus. But I don't agree with him on the time frame. And that's because of the research I've done on the errata civilization and the stories that talk about pre-Sumer of 7,000 BC. It's like way before that, 25,000 years ago, actually estimated, and there's some time missing there. But so now he's remote viewing another location. And if you can take notes on this, if you can write this down and find me the location on this, and then maybe find some way to put it here in the comment section while we're doing this, 46.45 north, 353.22 east. Deep inside of a cavern, not a cavern, more like canyon. Oh, maybe that canyon he's looking at right now, I'll get back to it in a minute, is the Valley Marineris. So let's go back. He's remote viewing that coordinate. Deep inside of a cavern, not a cavern, more like a canyon. I'm looking up the sides of a steep wall that seemed to go on forever. And there's like a structure with it's like the wall of the canyon itself has been carved. Again, I'm getting a very large structures. No, intricacies, huge sections of smooth stone. Do the structures have insides and outsides? Yes. It's like a rabbit warren, corners of rooms. They're really huge. I don't feel like I'm standing in one. It's just really huge. Perception is that the ceiling is very high, walls very wide. Yes, that would be correct. All right, I'd like to move now to another location nearby. All right, move from this point in time to 45.86 north. 354.1 east, 45.86 north, 354.1 east. They have appears to be the end of a very large road, and there's a marker thing that's very large. Keep getting Washington Monument overlay. It's like an obelisk. All right. From this point, then, let us move to another point. Move now to 35.26 north, 213.24 east. Move in this time to 35.26 north, 213.24 east. It's like I'm in the middle of a huge circular basin of the range, mountains by almost all the way around, very ragged mountains, very tall. Basin's very, very, very large. Scale seems to be off or something. It's just really big. Everything's big. I understand the problem. Just continue. See just a right angle corner to something, but that's all. I don't see anything else. Okay, then, let's move into a little different place. Very close. Move from the point you are now in this time to 34.6 north, 213.09 east. Move now in this time to 34.6 north, 213.09 east. The cluster of squares, up and down. It's like you want to make them square anyway. They're almost flush with the ground, and it's like they're connected. Something's very white or reflects light. What's your position of observation as you look at this thing that reflects light? I'm amid a oblique left angle. Sun is weird. Look back down at the ground now. And we're going to move just a little bit from this place, just a little bit from this place. Now, before we get to the coordinates there, so oblique left angle, sun is weird. That makes me think the atmosphere. Well, the first thing I thought of was he's underground, and what he's observing is so massive. It's this underground network, this underground structure that was designed to be as close to the surface as possible. Because I'm thinking of the TV show called Paradise right now that's on Hulu, where billionaires and politics get together, build an underground city in the mountains in Colorado, and they build it to where it looks just like you're on the surface. It's so big, like you've got what appears to be sunlight, but it's not sunlight, it's light. And at a certain time it turns off, and so you've got the night and day, and you feel like you're living outside, but it's really inside of a mountain. It's just and inside of the earth, it's just so massive. That's the first thing that came to my mind when he said the sun is weird. The second thing that came to my mind was it's because the atmosphere is so messed up that the sun or has changed so much that he's observing that. But I think he's inside of a structure right now that's just ginormous. Look back down. So the coordinates that he's going to now, let's jump to the next coordinates. 34.57 north, 212.22 east. Very close by. Now, move over now to 34.57 north, 212.22 east. It's like I can just perceive a radiating pattern of some kind. It's like some really strange intersecting kind of roads that are dug into valleys, where a road is just a little below the edge. Tell me about the shapes of these things. They're like really neat channels cut. They're very deep. It's like the road went down. Okay, now I notice electrical. Okay, so this guy's hooked up to an EEG. That's another thing fascinating that I just realized again. I remember this from last time we talked a little bit about it. As this dude's doing the remote viewing, they are checking his brain with EEG technology to see where his brain waves are going. I used to get EEGs twice a year because I had a seizure once when I was like 5 years old, and they checked my brain waves, and they were so like out of the ordinary that for the next 8 or so years approximately, I had to go get these EEGs twice a year, and it sucked because you had to just lay there basically, and you couldn't move. They didn't even want you to swallow. If I would swallow, they would get mad at me because it showed in the brainwave. So that's how accurate EEGs are from 30 years ago. And so this that's another thing that I think validates this. This isn't just a typical remote viewing session where they're like, okay, remote view this and write it down on the whiteboard. No, this guy's remote viewing it, and he's got EEG hooked up to him. Like he's got all this technology hooked up to him. So they're tracking his brain waves and seeing what's going on. That's cool. That's really cool. So now the interviewer is saying to the remote viewer, okay, now I notice electrically you're nulled out a little bit, and I want you to stay deep and recapture your focus here. It's really tough. It seems like it's just always very sporadic. I realize that. It's very important that you maintain your focus. I have a movement exercise again for you, and this is some considerable distance away. So holding the focus in time, remember the focus in time that you had before and moving now to 15 degrees north, 189 degrees east. Take some time and get back deep. See the intersecting, whatever these are aqueduct type things. These rounded bottom carved channels like roadbeds. See pointed tops of something on the horizon. Even the horizon looks funny and weird. It's like a different, misty, like it's really far away, very vague. Okay, another movement now to 80 degrees south, 80 degrees south, 64 degrees east, 64 degrees east. Move now in this time to 80 degrees south, 64 degrees east. See pyramids. Can't tell if it's overlay or not because they're different. Okay, do these pyramids have insides and outsides? They got both, and they're huge. It's really, it's an interesting perception I'm getting. I think that he's losing his ability to move accurately, but he is attracted to things that are interesting. So we're going to go with this. We're going to go with his own. We're going to let him go ahead and explore what seems to be interesting to him rather than move on the targets indicated here. It's filtered from storms or something. Say that again. They're like shelters from storms. These structures you're seeing? Yes, they're designed for that. All right, go inside one of them and find some activity to tell me about. Plus 37 minutes, real time. There's different chambers, but they're almost stripped of any kind of furnishings or anything. It's like a strictly functional place for sleeping, or that's not a good word, hibernations? Some form. I get real raw input. Storm, savage storm, and sleeping through storms. What have I been saying? Wow. Tell me about the ones who sleep through the storms. Very tall, again, very large people, but they're thin. They look thin because of their height, and they dress like in, oh hell, it's like a real light silk, but it's not. Flowing type of clothing, it's like cut to fit. Move close to one of them and ask them to tell you about themselves. They're ancient people. They're dying. It's past their time of age, or it's past their time or age. Tell me about this. They're very philosophical about it. They're looking for a way to survive, and they just can't. Plus 40 minutes. Definite voltage reversal. Can't seem to get their way out. They can't seem to find their way out, so they're hanging on while they look or wait for something to return or something coming with the answer. What is it they're waiting for? There evidently was a group or a party of them went to find a new place to live. It's like I'm getting all kinds of overwhelming input on the corruption of their environment. It's failing very rapidly, and this group went somewhere like a long way to find another place to live. Hello? What was I just saying at the beginning of the podcast? What was the cause of the atmospheric... Sorry, got to go back into character here. What was the cause of the atmospheric disturbance or the environment disturbance? I see a picture of like a... Oh, hell, it's almost a warp and a... Oh, God. This is difficult. It's like going... Let's see. The raw data... Oh, I get a globe. It's like a globe that goes through a comet's tail, or it's through a river or something, but it's all very cosmic. It's like space pictures. All right. Now, before you leave this individual, ask him if there's any way that ask him if he knows who you are, and is there any way you can help him in his present predicament? All I get is that they must just wait. Doesn't know who I am. Think he perceives I'm a hallucination or something. Okay, when the others left, these people are waiting. When the others left, how did they go? I get an impression of I don't know what the hell it is. It looks like the inside of a larger boat, very rounded walls and shiny metal. Go along with them on their journey and find out where it is they go. It's an impression of a really crazy place with volcanoes and gas pockets and strange plants. Very volatile place. It's very much like going from the frying pan into the fire. It's the difference is there seems to be a lot of vegetation where the other place didn't have it, and different kind of storm and different kind of storm. All right. It's time to come back now to the sound of my voice in the present time, to right now, the 22nd of May, 1984. The sound of my voice. Move now back to the room, back to the sound of my voice, back further now to the sound of my voice on the 22nd of May, 1984. Whoa, man, I just woke up. That was awesome. It's like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, man. So that was the end of the interview. Now, very interesting. It sounds like he was remote viewing them on a place that wasn't Earth even, unless it was somewhere on Earth that he hadn't seen before, because he was describing weird plants and volcanic activity. That sounds like one of Jupiter's moons. To me, that's the first thing that came to my mind. One of Jupiter's moons. Titan, maybe? But isn't Titan's one of Saturn's moons, isn't it? I also thought of Io. The first moon that came to my mind was Io, which is that real hellscape-like volcanic moon. And I don't think that's where they went. I'm like, yeah, I don't think they're like, let's stop at that one. That looks the most extreme. They were probably like Titan would make sense. Maybe. Enceladus would absolutely make sense, but that's a water moon, as well as Europa. Those are two super high candidates for water worlds, but what he was seeing didn't. Now, what would be the closest moon to Mars at that time? What would be the closest? Venus? Could it be Venus? No, I don't think it was Venus, because I think Venus was actually what caused that. Well, maybe they wanted to check Venus out because it was because Venus gets, when they describe that massive globe with the tail. Let's think about that for a minute. Massive globe with a tail. It's cosmic. That's what caused the cataclysm. That could be what created Valley Marineris. But if they're remote viewing something from 1 million years ago, that was a long time ago. And the myths that we're reading now, and Velikovsky speculates that it's only about 3,500 years old. I know a lot of people that research the electric universe, and they're under that EU umbrella. They tend to think more along the lines of Venus is a much newer planet that possibly came out of Jupiter, like the eye of Jupiter, that we see that red spot. Maybe. And they speculate that happened when our solar system was basically moving closer and Saturn got closer to Jupiter, which caused somehow this, core to be pulled out. And then it was in orbit with Mars for a while, and it was in like this harmonious orbit, and then somehow it got knocked out of orbit. And I don't know if I agree with that, but it is an interesting theory. But I think it's much, much older, especially now that we're, but here's the thing. They don't give us the exact date. First, they go back 1 million years, but then they keep changing timelines in this remote viewing session, right? They're going back and forth in time, and they're not giving specific dates and times. They're just saying, go back to a time when there was civilization. Go back to a time before the event took place. So, very interesting. Now, if we go back and look at this location that we know for a fact was the very first spot that was remote viewed, this is what he was remote viewing right here. The five-sided, oh, here's the five-sided pyramid. The five-sided pyramid's right here. So he was most likely remote viewing this five-sided pyramid. And then in another one of their sessions, they were most likely remote viewing something in the Valley Marineris. But please, if you can, get me the coordinates on this. Send me an email, leakproject@gmail.com, because I want to pinpoint all the spots that they remote viewed. They were clearly important. And the most recent image that is making its rounds, again, is from the HiRISE satellite. The HiRISE satellite, here is the image number E1000462 within this giant crater here. Here's the raw image. If we were to zoom in on this, it would be towards the top up here. See it right here? Man, that is my favorite remote viewing document that I've ever, like, that's the one. That's the best. That to me validates so much and creates so many parallels or connecting dots that I could just feel before validation. What else I want to show you here? And then obviously I've got a lot of, theory and speculation added to that, which just makes it a little bit more exciting, but that's where it starts. This is the Book of Enoch describing the rebellion of the Watchers. And if you take out the religious mindset, and you look at this as a possibility of like physical beings, a civilization from another planet that had to come to Earth because their planet was getting destroyed or annihilated, and they, were like fighting for survival. So they show up on another planet, they recolonize the planet, they have technologies and they know how to do things that the locals at that time either don't know about, or it hasn't been presented to them in that epoch or that time frame. But then it gets like religionized and turned into dogma and right and wrong, and then like there's just a lot of extras added and stuff taken away in my theory here. So one of the theories I have is the Watchers, certain Watchers, could actually be they came here after they had colonized Mars. Just a theory. And I'd like to hear your thoughts about it. But these are cool. These are so cool. You can check out this website, theancientconnection.com, megaliths, ancient rock art, sacred texts, 70 to 100 ton black granite sarcophaguses that we have no idea how they got there. And what if these were used for transportation? Now, I did some more research on this and to connect the mythology. I almost forgot about this. I'm so glad I remembered. Where are we at? So the Serapis is a Greek Egyptian god of the underworld. Oftentimes, there are associations with Osiris. So if they are the same deity or the same archetype, what if Osiris actually came here in one of these granite sarcophaguses? And the reason they're 70 to 100 tons, the reason it's this black granite is because it allowed them to transport safely. So 24 beings transport to Earth, and then like they are the progenitors of modern civilization. Just a theory. But the Watchers are often described as being like 200, I think, 200 of them. So these boxes, were they for individuals? Were they for the ancient gods? Or like power plant, like batteries? But I don't, if they were batteries, would they be developed in this way? Could it be a combination of the two? Is it like a battery sarcophagus that protects the inhabitants, but is also somehow they understand plasma physics and all this stuff that maybe has been suppressed or we don't know about yet, combined with their abilities through their DNA, transfer these from point A to point B, whether it's Mars or that other star that I haven't shared with you yet. I could give you some hints. They're in Egypt. There's plenty of hints right there. Wow. Amazing. I'm totally blown away with this. So we need to do more research on these granite sarcophaguses. We need to find out where they actually quarried this black granite, because there is talk of archaeologists don't even know where they got it from. Some claim to, but I'll have to go do more research on that. Wow. Amazing. Mars is like, get your ass back to Mars. That's my next stop. Have a beautiful day. Thanks for watching. Check us out on Patreon. Awesome content, exclusive content on Patreon. Also check out Noble Gold Investments like I was sharing with you earlier. If you have a 401 or IRA and you convert into precious metals, if you qualify, find out how. 1-877-646-5347. They will hook you up with 2 solid silver 5-ounce America the Beautiful coins. Yeah, I think I said that right. All right, everybody. Nanu, nanu. Great to see you. Thank you for being here.